Hey guys, Diabor Disaster here, coming at you with another interview deck profile. I'm here with Luke Stevens. He got 13th place at the PPG Digimon Regional. Luke, what'd you end up playing?
So I ended up playing Alphamon. I thought it was a really good pick, and we can just kind of get into the deck profile so I can kind of show you why I took it.
All right.
So we'll start with the eggs. We got the four Dorimons. This is how you kind of keep up your hand when you shove under sources. It's kind of self-explanatory, so we'll move on past that. We'll start with the rookies next. We got the four Dorimons. This is kind of your generic searcher, but also it's kind of one of your best slot under skills. It gets you back your memory, as well as a really good combo extender for the level 5s and level 6s and beyond, and we'll get into those a little bit later. Next, I have two of Doramon. I know a lot of people prefer Ryudomon in this slot. However, Doramon is kind of a generic draw. By pitching one, it just draws two rather than searching. And I personally play a lot of non-X-Ante related cards in this deck, so being able to just draw those without block decking them is really valuable in my opinion. And the final rookie I play is the four Sunariza. I really value still being able to do damage in the deck while you're also flooding the opponent with the certain play cost restrictions. Certain decks in the format can kind of take the hit by being floodgated for a turn or two and then kind of bounce back and win the game. So I think it's really important you still do damage while you're also floodgating the opponent.
That's fair.
Next, we'll move on to level 4s. I have four of the Daruga, specifically the 4 cost one in BT13. The 4 drop really does come up a lot. It came up a lot in the regional. A lot of times when you'll go into your level 7 plays, you'll have a lot of excess memory. This allows you to plop it down for really cheap. And then the following turn, you can spam your cool boys again, or you can kind of pop off by playing this, going your dex route. Just the 4 drop is really helpful overall. Speaking of the other Doruga, we have the 6 drop one. This one's basically the same effect for all intents and purposes of the deck. It has the 1k inheritable. This one can also get blocker, but it doesn't really get used that much for that effect. But we play the 2 extra copies because we're on the 4 Dex Daruga. This is honestly probably your best level 4 and one of the best cards in the deck. It just evos for free on top of Daruga, gives your guy retail, gives your guy blocker, and just the amount of memory you get off of this plus Cool Boy is just ridiculous. We'll move on to level 5 next. We have 4 of the new Dora Gray. Finally, replacement for the restricted Dora Gray. It does most of the same things. You get a prevent from DP reduction, which is huge in the meta right now with Shine, among other yellow decks. And then the end of turn, be able to tuck something under is really good with Oryuken and a couple of other cards in the deck. So definitely play 3 to 4. And then, of course, you have the one restricted Dora Gray. Pretty much the same when Digivolving, can't be DP reduced. But this one also gives secure attack +1 and inheritable, which often leads with this plus Suna to like OTK turns that just you may as well have the option to do. And then the last level 5 I run is the 2 Dex Dora Gray. Not as good as the Dex Daruga, but again, it's another Cool Boy proc, and it does pop level 4 lowers, which can often get removed like Madoki Betas, Gazimons, stuff that would turn off your Oryuken play. So definitely important to play this card as well. Then we'll get into level 6s. I'm on 3 of the new BT13 Alphamon. This card's just really insane. On Evo or on play, you just floodgate the opponent from attacking with 10 costs or higher to you directly. And then his all turns effect, if you would be removed by an effect from your opponent, you can just bottom deck one of your many sources you'll have to prevent that. Just fantastic against stuff like Hydra, Mirage is really good. Especially the Floodgate effect against decks like Mirage. They just can't swing with any of the level 6s. So you really floodgate them out of the game for a few turns. And then in terms of one more alpha, I'm on the 1 BT9 alpha. This one's pretty niche when it comes up. The 3 cost Evo is actually important. Sometimes you need that to do your Oryuken plays. And the D-Digivolve does help in certain matchups, like against Black or Gray X, if they didn't do the Metal Gray X line, because you can kind of get rid of their big blocker / redirector and just kind of swing over them. So I think this card's really important, and the deck's highly searchable, and you draw a ton of cards, so I think one of is perfect. Your last level 6 I'm running is the 3 Oryumon.
Only 3.
This card's like your... Yeah, I've considered 4. The issue I have with 4 is it gets really cloggy. It's not bad, though. But sometimes you do Evo into it, because if your opponent gets greedy and brings out a level 4 or 5 early, like Bloom does, or sometimes Shine does, you can often pop it with his on Evo effect, and then he gets deletion protection, which is pretty good. But he's kind of like your bread and butter. The way you deal damage with Alphamon, you slit him under, your Alphamon can unsuspend, and then you can keep doing those. one by one with cards like Yuji, and then you can kind of just pop off, and sometimes OTK. And then, of course, your big bad of the deck, we have the 3 Oryuken. I jump between 2 and 3 a lot, but the issue I have with 2 copies is you'll see it on a search with 2 copies, and you'll kind of be forced to take it because you never know if the last one's in your security. But other than that factor, this card just extends your play so much. It often wins you games. And yeah, it's just a really, really good card. Now move on to my tamer choices. I'm on the 3 Yuji. I have considered going down the 2 because of Mirage. Just because when you pull an X ante, you draw, which procs the BT11 Mirage. But, you know, I think you floodgate Mirage with the Alpha really well, so I think that's not necessary, per se, but you know, 2's fine, too. But this is just really good for sticking under your pieces, your Orymons, and stuff like that, so good card. And then, obviously, the best tamer, Cool Boy, I shouldn't have to explain it. It procs all your dexes, it searches nearly your entire deck. It gets you a ton of free memory. It's a 2-drop. I mean, this card is absurd in this deck. Next, I have my option cards.
No one of Coda?
No, I feel like the other tamers offer a bit more. And I can explain that further with the 2 black men boosts. You could theoretically not play this and play a Coda or a 1-in-1. But like I was playing the 4 Sunas, which is only searchable with something like this, or the Dormon if you just randomly draw into it. And then the +2 memory is a little more flexible than Coda. Coda does put you immediately to 3, but the +2 memory can extend past that. And if your opponent was already going to put you at 3 anyways, these cards are just better anyways. Also, it's not a tamer, so that like slightly helps the hunters matchup, so they can't you know, shove something under, among other things. So good card, Black or Gray can't pop it, etc., etc. Now we have a few more options. 2 Congo. This card is absurd, this format. It stops 7 cost of loss from attacking. Your opponent can't add to the security stack. I mean, this prevents Marcus from attacking. It basically just wins you that matchup alone. This card's absurd. I have considered 3. Definitely should be playing this card. It stops the rookie rush decks. It stops the champion rush decks. Hunters can't rush you out. Yeah, it stops the red hybrid, blue hybrid if you run into it, all that good stuff. I ran into a yellow hybrid that ended up hitting like 2 TKs in security when I played Congo, so I just dealt 4 damage in 1 turn for free. Card's ridiculous. Definitely want to play a few copies. Finally, for our 1-ofs, I have 1 X-Ante and 1 Final Zubagon Punch. X-Antes, I mean, it just extends your plays. If you can't Evo into level 6 and attack on that same turn, this allows you to do that, which, like I said before, I highly value still pressuring damage, even if you're floodgating the opponent. Also, you can slot it under or you can, and, you know, do that kind of stuff. It's also a free slot without any, like, conditions. So often you'll have a bunch of Dormons under your stack, and you have no way of, like, tucking more under. You don't have the UG, or you don't want to attack yet. X-Ante just does that for free, procs them all, draws a card, gains a bunch of memory. Really good 1-of, honestly. And it's searchable by Cool Boy. And then the Zubagon Punch is, like, it's that, like, surprise factor people don't really expect. It gives a bunch of power, it gives security attack +1, gives blocker, and really importantly, it does give reboots, which is really important in some matchups that'll come up, like Hydra. If you end up swinging, you want to make sure you don't give them like a free Hydra target, or they don't have Bloom to swing over it. And this card also facilitates OTKs, so very good 1-of. So that's pretty much it.
Also, with X antibody, I imagine that helps your matchup against Blue Flare a little bit because they can't Sorai your Oryuken.
Yeah, that's true. I think Blue Flare is generally fine. You get so much sources already, but X-Ante is definitely the icing on the cake.
I know that matchup can get kind of hard if they are able to stun Oryuken, but like, at least being able to stop them from playing their most broken card at least kind of puts it a little bit more in your favor. Obviously, Congo helps that matchup a lot too, but
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, I think with Alpha, you do have to be sort of like familiar with what you're playing against, just because you have like a lot of lineup plays in terms of your top ends with your level 6s. They all fill like a slightly different role. And in a lot of matchups with you'll just like bottom deck 7 to gain some memory, because why not? But certain matchups, you might keep a few of your sources, like you might keep a couple of Dormons for later, because you don't always need the 7 memory. You might want to choke your opponent. Or like you said against Blue Flare, there's really no reason to like lose your stack from Oryuken. Just leave like 5 sources under him or whatever, and you'll be golden.
That's fair. And aside from Mel Bergramon, as long as it's got sources, Metal Gray can't stun it. So
yeah, for sure.
And obviously they need Decker or Mel Bergramon, but like You
for
take
sure.
out the thing that they have the most copies of out of the
Yeah, for
equation.
sure.
Okay. Well, on that note, what were some of your best matchups in your PPG experience?
Yeah, so like one of the ones I mentioned earlier with Congo, I did play against a yellow hybrid player, um, and just Congo kind of wins that matchup. They can't heal. Any TKs that hit security are dead. If they're playing Chaos Segregation, they can't really use that either. So
Mm.
this card is just very versatile. So yeah, if you run into someone playing SetCon, this card is also just like how you pretty much won the matchup besides the Alphamon. I also ran into Blue Hybrid round one. This was really key against that because Blue Hybrid, like most hybrid decks, can be rather fast, and Alpha can be a little bit slow at times. So this kind of just stuns out like 90% of the dudes they're trying to swing with. So very good on that case. Despite playing this deck because I wanted to do favorably into Shine and Mirage, I actually didn't play against either of them somehow. I was
Rip.
undefeated until round 6, so you'd think I would have played against one, but I did not. I lost to a Royal Knights player in round 6. I believe it was on stream. It was really close, but that matchup can be rough because you kind of just alpha spam back and forth, and then whoever gets it, gets it. I played against a Mastimon, which again, Congo just kind of wins that matchup. I played a lot of those matchups where that happened. I think that was about the most notable matchups I can think of. I played 2 Blooms as well. Bloom can be a little bit tricky to navigate because you kind of have to gauge what lines they have. You have to see if they go Agitar all the way back up. You got to see what they search because if they go like Bloom Lord, you don't want to like leave a dude suspended so they can swing over it. Like because Alpha will floodgate Bloom Lord from attacking security, but it can still attack your Digimon. So if you think they're going to go to Bloom Lord, which is pretty normal, you don't really want to swing with your stack because then they can swing over for free without needing the Pomu.
Okay.
Other than that, Alpha does a really good job of board clearing because you have Orumon, which pops a 7 cost, and then if you go to Or You Can, you pop all of their highest play costs. So if they have multiple blooms, they all get deleted. And then the one of BT9, Alpha really helps if they have like a Hydra plus bloom, because Hydra would be the highest play cost. So you go D-Digivolve Hydra, go into Or You Can, pop all their blooms, and then you can just start swinging over stuff. Because Bloom's board's going to be entirely suspended. And after you pop everything, you'll just go Alpha or You Can plus the Orumon and just swing over their entire board without worrying about the damage. And then Bloom can't recover from that. You'll just win the following turn. And then you have outs to Quartz. Or You Can is out to Quartz. The D-Digivolve isn't out to Quartz. It's just not an issue. So I think that matchup is really favorable. And if you wanted to go even harder to that matchup, you could play something like Grademon, but that might be a little unnecessary, in my opinion.
Okay. Um, let's see here. Uh, so would you say that when you're playing, a lot of times you're not just like shotgunning the return 7 effect off, or you can?
No, so in this format, it's interesting, right? In the past, like BT9 format, you used to kind of just shotgun Or You Can because you had the 4-door grays and you should try to OTK. A lot of times in this format, this Alphamon is king because of his protection effect. He can't leave the battlefield by an effect once per turn. So against like Hunters, if they try to superior mode it, you can protect that, which is amazing. Against Hydra, you can protect them bottom decking it. A lot of times I find myself sitting on Alpha for a turn or two because they can't remove it for a lot of decks. And then you kind of, or you can when either you can like reestablish a second Alpha stack or go for game. So I would say, like, unlike in the past, you don't really or you can all the time. You only really do it when you either need to clear a card that you can't clear through other cards in your deck, or you're going for game. So
Okay.
there's that.
That's probably a good tip to, toss out there, because I imagine a lot of alpha players that used to play the deck are probably very like wishy-washy with that fact. So very
Yeah,
good
it's
advice.
definitely a change in like a mentality of how you play the deck. It used to be very OTK centric, but now it's more like that possibility is still there because it's soon in like Dora Gray, which I think is really important to have because if you high roll someone, you high roll someone, right? But you definitely play it a little more controlly and resource wise, like a little harder in the resource management. And that's what makes the deck a little more on the difficult side to play, I would say, compared to a few other decks. So
Okay. What about some of your worst matchups?
that's kind of the reason why I took Alpha. I feel like the matchup spread was so good for this deck. Like, you really do well in the Shine, you do well in the Mirage. You have outs to Black or Gray. You have outs to Royal Knights through this by stunning. They can't attack. Blue Flare just doesn't like you're fine in the Blue Flare because you have so many sources. They generally can't stun you. And those are all really the most popular decks. The other deck that's really popular, at least now, is Belphamon. This Alphamon does floodgate the Rage mode from attacking you, and the only way they can out this Alphamon in one turn is they have doubled their Karada Tamer, because you'll just tuck a source under the bottom of your deck and prevent it from deleting, or they have the Karada plus they have the Gift of Darkness. But even if they have that, they can't attack that turn, right? So they're basically stuck going back into sleep mode and not actually trying to win that turn. So in that matchup, you probably want to prioritize moving out earlier, establishing like alpha if they're going to rage mode you, because they're not popping your stack until they go like rage mode or they have Gift of Darkness. So you might even prioritize like moving out level 5 just so you can start another stack in the back if they happen to have an out to alpha like the double Karada or the Karada plus the Gift of Darkness. So I'd say in that matchup exclusively, you have to rework your mentality just slightly so you're actually favorable in that matchup. But if you do those things, I think you kind of like clear most matchups. Like I mentioned briefly, alpha can be slightly slow to start up because you'll want to like go to level 4 on your back. You want to set up Cool Boys and UGs. So it's a little susceptible to like rush from hunters as well as any hybrid deck. But that's why I stress the importance of cards like Congo, just because it allows you to stall for a bit to get your pieces, and then once you get set up, you can kind of run back at the opponent and kind of regain your momentum. So I would say I can't really think of a relevant matchup that's really difficult for this deck right now, which is exactly why I took this.
Gotcha. All right. Well, on that note, did you have any things you want to change about your list at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I briefly mentioned a few opportunities to change. For example, you could go to 3 Congo if you're really like worried about Yellow Hybrid set kind of shine. I do think you're already slightly favorable in most of those matchups, but if you really want to pile on the hate, you could go a 3rd Congo, and you could like swap that out for like a Black Memory Boost, as I discussed earlier, or even the UG and go down to 2 UGs if you also fear Mirage a lot. But even in those cases, like I said, I think BT13 Alpha puts you above those matchups anyways, but if you want to like tech for your local scene or really worried about a bigger event with a certain deck being more popular, you could tech for that. Other than that, the only other thing I've considered is a 1-up hybrid, which could be again slotted with between any of these cards. The only issue with that is it's not searchable, and you're not necessarily going for the OTK plan like you were in BT9. But, you know, hybrid for game is hybrid for game, so I totally understand anyone trying to fit in one of those. So those are basically the only things I would consider changing. But like I said, I don't think they're necessary either at the moment in this given format.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, do you have any final comments about the deck or any shout-outs you want to give?
Shout-outs to all my opponents in PPG. They're all really nice. It's great having nice banter back and forth with my opponents. It's great when they're all really nice and at least a really positive experience. So, and I guess shout out to PPG for hosting the event. So all in all, it was a really fun event, and I greatly appreciate being a part of it.
It's great to hear. Are you going to be going to Nats with your invite?
Yes, I do plan on going to Nats again this year. So that should be a lot of fun. A lot less people this time because of the change in the store championships, but it should still be a good time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
All right. If you enjoyed that video and want to see more, feel free to click on the most recent video link on the left side of the video, or just go to my channel link and check out all the awesome Digimon content I have for you there. While you're there, smash the subscribe button for me so we can keep the channel going. Also, more content on my TikTok about Digimon news, card releases, and just general rants about the card game, and the occasional random video. Don't forget to answer the question of the week at the bottom of this video, down in the comment section, and as always, have a diabolical day.